Hello, here we go. We're going to be starting lesson 10.4. This time we're going to be learning to read bar graphs. These are so much fun. You are going to enjoy it because I know I always like to do a bar graph. How is a bar graph used to show data? So you need to be looking at, this is still a picture graph right here. Use the picture graph to solve the problem. Draw or write to show what you did. So each one of these little red cubes stands for a red truck. And these are the red trucks that were seen last week by Morgan, Tyrell, Jasmine, and Carlos. So you're going to need to figure out how many red trucks in all did those children see. So that's your first job, is to figure out how many red trucks, according to this picture graph, did Morgan, Tyrell, Jasmine, and Carlos see. Alrighty, then we're going to turn over to the next page, and we are going to be learning about the bar graph. And here is our draw and model, or model and draw. A bar graph is used to show, uses bars to show data. Look at where the bars end. This tells how many. There are 8 children playing soccer. Now let's just take a minute to go over this bar graph so that you understand how to be able to read it. The title of this bar graph is Children Playing Games. On the side, we see the categories of what games they were playing. They were played basketball, jump rope, soccer, and tag. So the children were playing these 4 games. And then our label down below to match these numbers tell us what these numbers represent, starting at 0. At this point in the bar graph, there would be 0 children. At this point in the bar graph, that would be 1 child, 2 children, 3 children at this point, 4 children at 4, 5 children at 5, 6 children at 6, 7 children at this point, 8 children at this point, and 9 children at this point. So depending on how far out that bar goes, that would tell us how many children were playing that particular game. You'll notice in our little think cloud up here that it's telling us that there are 8 children who are playing soccer. So I'm going to look at where my bar graph ends. Here it is, right at this purple line. I go straight down and see that that represents 8 children. I'm going to go through and do that for all of these so that you can see exactly how to work this. Now, it doesn't matter whether the bars are going horizontal or if they're going vertical, which we'll see in just a minute. So let's figure out how many kids were playing basketball. Go to the end of the green line and come straight down to our numbers at the bottom of our bar graph. It looks like there were 6 kids who were playing basketball. Let's look at jump rope. Jump rope comes out to this purple line. I'm going to go straight down, and I see that there were 3 children playing jump rope. Soccer we already figured out with 8, and tag there were, going straight down at the end of the orange bar, was 5. If you'll always put that information out to the side, whether you're doing a tally chart or a picture graph or a bar graph, you will find it's much easier to keep track, and I don't have to keep going back and double checking. So that's why I always do that. So then what you're going to do is you're going to come down and use this bar graph, which you need to study the bar graph first to make sure you understand everything that's happening on that bar graph. The numbers along the side, because this time we are doing a vertical bar graph. The numbers on the side tell you the number of marbles, and our key down below tells us the color of those marbles. We had red marbles, we had blue marbles, we had green marbles, and we had purple marbles. So you want to study this bar graph first, write in all the information so that you can quickly answer these questions that are off to the side. Then we are going to move on to the next page, and you're going to be doing the same thing with this horizontal bar graph. Favorite places to go. Here's the places, and it even says in our title, we have the aquarium, the zoo, the beach, and the museum. You'll need to figure out how many children like to go to the aquarium, how many children like going to the zoo, how many children like going to the beach, and how many kids liked going to the museum, because the numbers down below are represented here as the number of children. 0 children, 1 child, 2 children, 3 children, 4 children, 5 children, 6 children, 7 children, 8 children. It looks like we didn't get all the way up to 9, so there were not 9 children on this particular one. Then you're going to be doing these 5 questions. And you'll need to be very careful on question number 8 because it's a little bit tricky. And then you are going to come over to the next page and do the same thing with trees on the farm. There are 1, 2, 3 questions that need to be answered about trees on the farm, and you are going to have to figure that out based on what I just talked about a few minutes ago. And be careful on number 11. You're going to need to explain how many trees would be on the farm if 7 more trees were brought in based on what you learned from this bar graph. And then you're going to use the data from the bar graph to be able to answer there were blank fewer apple trees than oak trees. So I'll need a number here and explaining how you found that out. Then you are going to go to your exit ticket. Okay, here is your exit ticket. Oops, I've got the wrong side of my exit ticket. Your exit ticket, as we have done up to this point, will be all of the problems on the practice and homework page. So you're going to do the first problem all the way down to number 6. You're going to be answering those questions, but first you need to study the bar graph so you know what kind of data is on that bar graph, including paying attention to the title, which is favorite sport. The sports would be baseball, soccer, basketball, and football. Number of children who liked those would have been 0 children at this point, 1 child, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Answer those questions. And you will also be doing, as a part of your exit ticket, you'll also be doing this problem, which is about our shells. So this is still a part of your exit ticket. There you go, this part. And then, of course, the review part. Review. We will do together when we correct this. Now, I did notice a couple of things about our review. We did not talk about a line plot this year, so I'm going to help you with that one. It says to use the line plot to see how many twigs were 3 inches long. Well, this is like reading a bar graph, basically. I'm seeing the lengths of twigs in inches. So I have 2, each one of those X's stands for a twig. I have 2 twigs that were 3 inches, or excuse me, lengths of twigs in inches. So this would be 2 inches. This would be 3 inches. This part of my line plot would be 4 inches and 5 inches. So this was the length of the twigs in inches. 2 inches, there were 2. 3 inches, there were 3. Twigs that were 4 inches, there was 2. And twigs that were 5 inches, there was 1. You have to find out how many twigs were 3 inches using the information on your line plot. And I've made it very, very simple for you to be able to figure that out. Okay, I am going to use the centimeter ruler. What is the length of the yarn to the nearest centimeter? And again, I am going to put that centimeter ruler right down so that you can see, because you might not have a centimeter ruler at your house. There is that. I've got to make sure that I line up my 0 mark with the end of the yarn to wherever it goes on my ruler. Whoops, sorry, moved that. So I'm lining up my 0 mark with the end marks for my piece of yarn, and you're going to have to read that ruler to find out how many centimeters long is that piece of yarn. Of course, you can pause the video if I'm going too fast, and then of course you're going to do problem number 4 about Noah and his quarter and 2 nickels. Make sure you draw a picture of that so you can count the money. And with that, my friends, you are going to begin your exit ticket, and in just a couple of minutes, I will be back and we will go over it together. All right, see you in a few minutes. Are you back? All righty, let's take a look and see how you did. Okay, so if I'm looking at my picture graph, I can see that Morgan saw 3 red trucks, Tyrell saw 6 red trucks, Jasmine saw 8 red trucks, and Carlos saw 4 red trucks. Remember that each of those little red boxes stands for a red truck. So I needed to take all of my totals. There was 3, 6, 8, and 4. Add those together. So I did 3 plus 8 was 11, 6 plus 4 was 10, 10 plus 11 was 21. So if you said there were 21 total trucks that he saw or were seen last week, congratulations. That was a good job for you. Now we're going to continue on to the next bar graph. I did this one together with you earlier, so we won't go over that one. But let's take a look at the bar graph with the marbles. So this one is a vertical bar graph. And again, I can see the number of the marbles coming up this way. So I'm seeing how tall is this vertical graph or vertical bar, and it comes up to 2. My blue bar goes all the way up to 6. My green bar goes all the way up to 4. And my purple bar goes all the way up to 3. And I like to write those numbers in so that when I'm doing the rest of this, it's not tough and I don't have to go back and keep thinking about it. So how many green marbles were in the bag? Well, that's a piece of cake. There was 4. How many more blue marbles than purple marbles? Well, there were 6 blue marbles, which I wrote down, and 3 purple marbles. 6 blue marbles, take away 3 purple marbles, gives me 3 more blue marbles than purple marbles. Then it wants to know how many marbles were in the bag. Well, I'm going to have to add 2 and 6 and 4 and 3, which gave me a total of 15. If you got that correct, congratulations. Way to go for you. All righty, so now we have interesting places to go. 4 kids chose the aquarium because my yellow line matches up with my scale at the bottom, which is 4. The zoo matches up with 8 at my scale at the bottom. The beach comes all the way out to 6, and the museum goes down to 3. I would hope that you went ahead and put those numbers on there because it makes it so much easier when you have to find out how many children chose the beach. Well, the beach was easy. I know that was 6. Which place did the fewest number of children choose? Well, the line that's the shortest would be the fewest, which was the museum. How many more children chose the zoo? Let's see, the zoo was 8, then the aquarium. The aquarium was 4. So 8 take away 4 gives me 4 more children. And how many children chose a place that was not the zoo? So I'm not going to consider the zoo. I'm only going to consider the other 3 numbers for the aquarium, the beach, and the museum. If you add 4 and 6 and 3 together, you get 13. So Greg chose a place that had more votes than the aquarium and the museum together. So I know that the aquarium was 4 based on my bar graph, and that the museum was 3. So I added 3 and 4 together to get 7, and then I compared 7 to 8. 7 is less than 8, therefore I know that the zoo had more than the aquarium and the museum together because 7 is less than 8. So the zoo should have been the answer that you wrote. And continuing on to the next page, this time we're looking at trees on the farm. The oak tree, first thing I want to do is look at my scale. I can see that there were 6 oak trees in my vertical bar graph, and there were 3 pecan trees. There was 7 maple trees and only 2 apple trees. So how many trees were on the farm? Well, you're going to have to add 6 and 3 and 7 and 2, which I did to get 18. And how many trees were not apple trees? Well, I don't want to consider the apple tree at this point, so I'm only going to be adding 6, 3, and 7. 6, 3, and 7 gave me 16. Now I have to suppose that there are 7 more trees brought into the farm. They want to know how many trees would there be then. Well, I can go right back up to this answer because that told me that there were a total of 18 trees, and I'm bringing on 7 more. Well, this is a piece of cake. 8 ones plus 7 ones is 15 ones, composing a new 10. 1 10 plus 1 10 gives me 2 10s. There would be 25 trees, and I'm hoping that you remembered to write your answer out in word form. Now you have to use the bar graph to finish this sentence. There were blank fewer trees than, or blank fewer apple trees than oak trees. So I went up to my apple trees and saw that there was 2, wrote that down here, and there was 6 oak trees. So 6 oak trees take away 2 apple trees gives me 4 fewer apple trees than oak trees. Hopefully you got that right. We did a lot of that in Eureka Math, so hopefully that one was a piece of cake. Then you need to take care of your exit ticket when we get finished and send that to your teacher. Remember, your exit ticket is all the questions, including question number 6. And the first question on the last page, which is a part of your exit ticket as well. And then we are going to go over this part together. I talked to you about using the line plot this is a line plot. It's basically like a bar graph. How many twigs were 3 inches long? Well, remember this was 2 inches. This was 3 inches. This was 4 inches. And I wrote this down for you just before we did this, 5 inches, but I'm only interested in the ones that are 3 inches long. So I only want to look at this part of the line plot. So how many twigs were 3 inches long? One X stands for 1 twig, a second X stands for a second twig, and a third X for 3 twigs. So my answer was 3 twigs. If you got that right, I am very impressed with you. Here is my measuring again with my centimeters as I measured earlier for you, and I hope you saw that that was 1 centimeter, 2 centimeters, 3 centimeters, 4, 5, 6, and 7 centimeters. If you got 7 centimeters, congratulations. And the total number of money that Noah had with his quarter and 2 nickels was 35 cents. 25 going up 5 gave me 30. Up 5 more gave me 35. And with that, I am going to say have a fantastic, wonderful day of learning.